people may be coming in. I just wanted to get a gauge on how you're doing now on your research projects. Was it helpful to be in Rick? Was it helpful to Andrea and Becca?
She was talking about like some things on APA, like that just like mind blowed me, and I'm like, oh my god, thank God I know this now.
I'm definitely going to our break.
Okay, all right. Well, let me know if you want me to book another time. They said they're more than willing if you want to concentrate on, you know, once you get your research started and you're having some more sources and you want some more tutoring help. If there's a great deal of you that want to do that, I can book Becca back in again. We could go back over. She can even come here to class. So let me know how you're doing. You know, give me a gauge along the way so that I help support your learning too. How about your topics? Do you feel more settled with your topics? I think everybody basically, make sure you just turn in your topics to me. Some of you, and I have Mrs. Z working on it, I can't open your documents, and I've emailed you back, responded, and I don't know why, we can't figure it out. So she's working on that today, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. She's also working on, because I told her that you could not bring up the library with all the materials, because everything that I have posted for every chapter is in the materials folder, is in my library. And she said you should all be able to pull those up. So we're figuring that out too.
I can't find like the actual library on my Edmodo.
You can't?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay, she's looking at that today. So she's going right back into Edmodo and she's gonna Google it and find out.
Yeah, which when I emailed you looking for like the videos,
Right.
it showed up like after you said you were
Right.
putting it up like in the assignment where the Vygotsky one is.
Right.
But there's like no library option in mine. And when I search it up there, it gives me like
Right.
the definition.
See, now that's my main page and she can't figure out why I'm able to only have my library. Like, look at all the items I have in my library. And all these items I post to your specific chapters. But you should be able to get into the library and actually pull out the materials too when you want to.
I found my library by accident and I don't know how I got back to it though.
So you can't get back into it now? Okay, she's finding out, and as soon as she does, she's going to email me or come back in, so we'll figure it out. I just wanted to let you know that the latest post I just put up an additional, these are the rubrics that I will be using to score, and you will actually score too, everybody's presentation. So take a moment when you're looking at your research paper. I'm not trying to overwhelm you, but I'm trying to help you with creating it. When you're doing your PowerPoint presentation, we all will have this in front of us. And these are just random scores, but you see, it's a rubric from 1 to 4 points. So during your presentation, I'm going to be looking at your organization, and you can see for each point area, I don't know why it turned out like this because I don't have mine. The subject knowledge, it goes from student does not have a grasp of the information to the excellent student demonstrated full knowledge. So we'll be able to see that during your presentation. Meaning if we ask you questions, that you're well versed in the topic that you research and you are able to answer the questions. The graphics. It's not mandatory that you add graphics, but guess what? You know with any presentation, graphics, visuals, they make the presentation a little bit more meaningful. So if you want to embed a quick little clip, a video, or graphics, some of the students did their presentations in Prezi. Some of them just, Microsoft is fine. So think about graphics to demonstrate your knowledge. The mechanics, making sure that everything's spelled correctly. That's a huge plus in a college level class. So making sure that you double check your spelling, you make sure that the terms you're using are exact. Also during the presentation, I know this is hard and this is your first class in, but as a teacher, your presentation in the classroom commands those public speaking skills of eye contact, looking at your audience, relating to. So I look for the eye contact, and I look for the execution with your voice. And I know that's hard, and it panicked a lot of my students in my prior classes. Some were less confident in themselves as a public speaker. But it's something that we're giving you practice with. That's why it's your first practice with doing a presentation like this. And many of you probably have given presentation in other classes or in high school. So it's to help you with getting confident with being able to talk to a large group, to be an instructor. So thinking about how you speak, thinking about the words you're choosing, practice. So practice on your roommates, practice on your peers. So practice even yourself, saying the presentation out loud. It'll make you feel more confident. And then the second one, I put in the research paper rubric. And I'm always kind of changing this up. If you see here the category, and I'm giving you 100 points in your research. So I look at your introduction paragraph. Remember I said, think about your statement. Make a strong introduction of your topic with key questions, terms. You clearly give us the subtopics to be reviewed. Like a thesis statement. This is not a thesis, but it's a research paper. So you want to make a strong statement of your topic and ask questions within that statement. This is what I'm going to explore. This is what I really wanted to know. Making sure that all your material is focused and sequenced properly so that when I'm reading it, it flows. Give it to someone else to read. It's okay to have a peer review on your writing. I do that all the time. When I'm writing some, Dr. K writes all the time for publication. She always sends it to me, says, read it over. What do you think? Does it flow? She just did a presentation. She sends me her PowerPoint. She asked me, edit it. Do you see anything? We do it all the time as professionals. So it's not a humiliation process when you give someone else your product to review, because you'll get honest feedback. Peer review is one of the best ways. Your support. I look at, is it strong peer review? Remember when Andrea was showing us in the library about certain peer review research? You don't want to pull up research that has no peer review to it. You don't want to use research that is not professionally sound research. So making sure that the research of what you're using is very supportive for your topic. The conclusion. How did you draw it all together? What did you come up with? What is your conclusion to the findings that you found? Was it completely different than when you expected from the findings? And you discuss it personally. Like, based on this research, I now know, and give me a solid conclusion to it. I look for your grammar and mechanics. Please make sure everything's spelled correctly. Please make sure your grammar is proper. And your APA style and communication, again, I'm saying I want the bare bones of the APA. She showed you how to cite. She showed you what it looks like to indent, what to include, making sure that the grammar is appropriate. I'll have Becca come in and do another snapshot APA. And then don't forget your reference page. Please make sure that there is a cover page with the title and your name and the class. You can do the running heading and footnotes also if you want. The running heading is good because it keeps the title going throughout. And remember how she showed you the default setting. So it's really easy to kind of set it up and then go. Like she said, if you set it up ahead of time, then it's all taken care of. Okay, any questions on the rubrics? Okay, I posted some of the other work. We're going to do chapter 4 today. So let's look at the teacher's casebook. It's actually on page 118, the first page of chapter 4. What would you do?
Does that mean the assignment for chapter 4 is due next time?
Pardon me?
Does that mean the assignment for chapter 4 is due next time, right?
I put the date on it. I think it was, oh yeah, it was today. It's for next time.
Okay.
I like to kind of keep ahead as we're going so that you're reading at the same time I'm following key points in class.
So it's
Okay, I
really
just wanna
just,
make sure
Yeah.
it was due today.
It wasn't due today.
If we already did it, is that okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No, you have to do it again. No, some of you already submitted it. And on your research topics page, if you submitted it, I just checked it off. If I checked it off, there's an X, that means I received it, reviewed it, okay? Okay, read the teacher's casebook. Okay, describe for me the scenario for this teacher's classroom. Tell me some pertinent information that you read about this classroom. If you were the teacher in the classroom, that would help you in designing instruction. McKinley?
Because it's a more inclusive classroom where like there's no distinction between students with disabilities and without, it'd be like for me, I would try and make like a classroom where it's more student run, where students are helping each other instead of like the teacher being the main like source of guidance.
Perfect.
I would say.
So the teacher would be more of a coach.
Yeah, while the students are like leading in activities and helping each other understand.
Do you know what those strategies are referred to in the classroom? When students are working with students and you're setting up peer-led, peer-reviewed, cooperative learning. Those are all strategies that you use that incorporate and help with an inclusion classroom. I think I described before that our use of classroom space for special education now, which we've changed our own focus, is more inclusive. And we call it a blended sometimes. Sometimes it's a co-teaching classroom. Have any of you ever been part of a co-teaching classroom? Describe what the classroom looks like, feels like, sounds like. Tell me what a co-teaching classroom means versus maybe a regular classroom.
Like, it could go for like special education teachers and regular.
Correct. And does the special ed teacher only work with students with the disabilities? That's right. That's what the key to it. It's having two teachers all the time in your classroom. Sometimes, if they're not fortunate enough to have enough special ed staff, the special ed teacher may be there only for a period or 2 periods during the day. Sometimes, it depends on an elementary, they might have the special ed teacher there for a whole day. It depends on how many students are in that class too, as far as an inclusion classroom. Typically, when principals and groups are grouping children together, they tend to group maybe into one classroom because that helps with the special education teacher's time with the regular ed teacher. So the benefit of having a co-teaching classroom, I know when we started co-teaching classrooms, sometimes parents became, I would say, a little ostracized with the feeling that their regular ed child is in this classroom thinking, because they didn't understand the concept of what a co-teaching classroom. And I explained to parents that actually it's a huge benefit. Because think how much more powerful it is to have 2 different teachers in that classroom working with the students all the time. The extra attention you can get, the 2 different styles of teaching you get. So it's a huge benefit to have a co-teaching classroom. And if you're ever lucky enough to be a teacher in a co-teaching classroom, it's a great benefit for the camaraderie too for the teachers. What other pertinent information did you read in the case study that would be important for you as a teacher if this was your classroom? Tell me something else. Maybe something you don't know what it is, and ask that question. Was anything in this case study that you're saying, well, I'm not really quite sure what this is? Does anyone know the criteria with an Asperger's child? What are some particular functions that you'd have to accommodate in the classroom, maybe with a child with Asperger's? And maybe you've had a
There's like social anxiety.
Mhm.
A lot of times, like just regular anxiety, OCD, ADHD, a bunch of all the living.
right, all the living components, and most of it is usually sensory. A lot of it with Asperger's children, they're very sensitive to the noise, to the touch, to loud noises, to social interaction. A lot of times they don't know how to react socially
They can't
to
read
others. Right.
facial
They
expressions.
exactly. They're not good at reading people's faces. So that if they're hurting someone, they don't react to, I'm sorry, I just hurt you, because they don't read that well.
With Asperger's, is it more difficult to like engage in social conversation too?
It is, because they don't have the vocabulary typically to be able to express themselves. Usually they express themselves how? It usually comes out
It
as,
sounds insensitive and
yes,
rude.
cold, rude, they're kind of sharp.
Like I can't control what they're trying to say sometimes.
Right. And sometimes they just sometimes make noises, sometimes they react and become very anxious. Sometimes it looks like they're becoming very angry, but they're very frustrated because it's like a child locked within, their senses. They can't express them. Jackie?
My cousin has autism, something similar, and like my older cousin, they used to like play,
Mm-hmm.
and like he would get super excited, and then he would start like punching her,
Right.
but he didn't know that he was hurting her, but he was actually like,
That was his reaction
yeah, that was
to.
his reaction. He didn't know like how to like react to the situation, so like he just would punch.
Right. Yeah. So, as a teacher, knowing in the classroom, do you have a
With Asperger's, is it something that they're born with or something that's developed within time?
No, it's actually born with. And a
Sometimes
lot
you
of
discover it though. too.
Exactly. What happens with Asperger's and autism, that along the way that they don't know at birth, and it starts developing more and more skill levels as they're getting older. So might be the child, sometimes as babies, they don't like to be touched. They don't like to be held sometimes. You'll notice certain clothing bothers them, tags in their clothing. They become very uncomfortable with certain feeling of like certain clothing. They like soft kind of comfort things. So it's something to be aware of and to look around your classroom because you can accommodate that within your environment. One of the skills that they use with students and actually many of the services they do within the schools is PT services and OT services. And one of the skills that they use with them is called brushing. Is anyone familiar with that term?
I've heard of it, but I don't know specifically.
Okay, well brushing is actually building that sensitivity to their skin. And they actually do that. They actually brush them because do that to your arm right now. It's a soft touch, just brushing. What do you feel in your sensitivity in your arm? Right, it calms you. It's like the same thing with the breathing and the brain and the yoga. Now some kids don't react positively to that, and they don't like touch. And so by helping them with that brushing, it actually kind of desensitizes that negative feeling to their body. So it's a positive to help them. And they train parents so that parents can do the same thing and become more aware. So let's look at the critical thinking. You are the teacher in charge of this classroom. 2 students are on medication for attention deficit disorder. And there's a huge controversy about medications with students with ADHD and different obsession compulsive disorders. And you as a teacher have to be really careful, because I've had this scenario. You as a teacher are not medical professionals. You can talk to parents as far as behavioral, and the best advice is what you can integrate in the classroom. Do not ever say to a parent, I really think your child needs medication for their attention disorder. Because guess what? You're not the recommendation. You're not the medical. Because pediatricians get their hair up in dander when they come in, when parents come in and say, the teacher told me that I should come here and ask for medication. Number one, don't ever, ever, ever say that. You may think, you cannot say. Because the next thing you know, you're going to be pulled into the principal's office and they're going to say, why is this doctor calling me saying that you made this recommendation? You can never, ever make a medical recommendation. All you can say to the parents is, I've noticed there's some activity levels with the child. I'm trying to work on behavioral plans in the classroom. I would talk to the principal and to the school psychologist. Each school always has what they call as a child study team. A child study team, they call it, schools call them many different things. But the team itself is comprised of the principal and the special area teachers and school psychologists and counselors. And what they do is they bring students to them to discuss. A classroom teacher will say, I have a student and I'm having a difficult time with being able to reach the student, whether it be academically, emotionally, behavioral. And the team works on an intervention plan. And that's what RTI is, response to intervention. So rather than teachers coming to the team and saying, I think this child needs to be classified, that's not the first step. We don't jump to that conclusion, because there's lots of things along the way that affects the child's success in school. Being home life, being hereditary. It could be some physical, emotional. So you go to the team and the team works up a plan and says, let's try these strategies. And they monitor your implementation of the strategies with the child. And they monitor for success, they monitor for what's not successful. You take it back to the team and said, I tried this and this and this over this long period of time. It can't be a one-shot thing. And I found this to be the most advantageous, this did not work. And they look at the plan and they come up with another plan. It's not a quick fix. And classroom teachers sometimes say, I want this fixed. Well, it's not a quick fix, because every child is an individual. So that's what RTI is, response to intervention. And you develop your plan. And it's called an FBA. It's called a functional behavioral assessment. And you involve the parents and the group. And you actually look at functionally behavior implementations you can do with the child. So that's one criteria you can look at in a class like this. This is how you design a standards-based curriculum that will allow all students to learn to their fullest potential. Everybody must follow the same standards. There's no special Common Core standards for special education. The expectation is every child will learn the same standards. Will every child learn at the same pace? Absolutely not. Will every child learn in the same way? Absolutely not. So what would you as a classroom teacher do? What are some things that you can do to modify and differentiate? And you're going to hear that over and over and over. What are some simple things that you do to differentiate basic instruction in the classroom? Well, think about the environment itself. Think about what you can do to look like, sound like in your classroom that differentiates from other classrooms. What do I do every day? You the music play. How am I differentiating? Do your other professors play music for you in the classroom? How is that differentiating for my classes?
Maybe it makes like my class like calmer. So like, you know,
Let it go.
retain
Mhm.
information. So if you're like calm, you can like it's just easier to retain the material.
Right. It is. It's a brain activation. And I'm helping you like calm yourself so your brain is starting to build those synapses with what's happening here in the classroom. What else did I talk about? The lights. Thinking about that in the classroom, creating a calmer atmosphere. Most kids with emotional or behavioral situations react to those lights. Keeping it a calm, quiet kind of environment. Giving them the opportunity to move. How many of you find it hard to sit here for an hour and a half? All of you. And that's why I encourage you, get up and move. That's why we do group activities, get up and move. It's hard for us as adults, and you think about 5-year-olds, 10 years old, 15-year-olds, sitting during those class period times. So movement is one of the best things you can do in the classroom to differentiate. How would you address those specific problems of those students in this case study? We don't expect you to be experts in every single area of education. So what can you do? What are resources you can rely on to help you as a teacher?
You can have like varying assessments and different levels of difficulty tasks for each student, like worksheets. So
Absolutely.
they're more personal for their needs.
Right. Differentiated instruction differentiates the instruction itself. It differentiates the product, what they produce, giving them choices. Would you like to do a project? Would you like to do a written assignment? Would you like to do a presentation? When you differentiate for students, you're allowing them to use their strengths in order to provide the knowledge. Will you understand if they have a clear-cut grasp of the material? Absolutely. They just show it to you in many different ways. So if I gave all of you a test right now, take out a piece of paper, write 10 numbers, write the answers to these questions. How many of you would say, yes, I would really feel excited and succeed in that? Right. And what happens in schools typically? How do they gauge the assessments?
Sit down and take a test.
Exactly. Right. Every unit, you finish the unit, you do the unit test, right? How many of you feel that that's the best way you've succeeded in learning your specific topics? Pardon me?
Just made me cram everything,
Mm.
and then I forget it, and I learn the next lesson.
So what happens to your brain when you cram?
It goes in like your short-term memory.
Exactly.
It doesn't go in the long
Nope.
term.
It's in and out. It's like those spelling tests at the end of the week, in and out. And unless you practice it, and you're going to hear that over and over and over in your classes, practice, practice, practice. The more you practice it, the more your students practice it, it becomes embedded. In my other class, we talked about the enduring knowledge. What you want from all of your lessons is that enduring understanding of something that is important. Everything you teach is not going to be an enduring understanding. Some is information that is good to know, but some is information that they really need to know for the rest of their lives. Can you think of something really important that you learned maybe back in elementary school that you still use now because it's really important to know for success in your life?
Counting.
There you go.
You like 7, 14, 21, 28, 30, 5, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70. Like at the minute, I don't take math anymore, but I used to sit in math class. I wouldn't use my fingers, but I'd like count in my head. I'd sing.
So the trick of the counting is something that was an enduring knowledge that you learned early on that you use every single day. But now it's such an automatic that you don't really think about
Yeah.
when, like you did when you were learning. But something else you use every single day that you learned early on in your elementary school. Writing. Is writing not the key to communication? And how many times did you dread it when your teacher said, take out a paper, and we're going to write? And you were like, oh, right? It was the worst thing you could possibly do. It was like punishment. No, you love the writing, right? But see, there are students that's why we differentiate. You say, that is awesome. I can show my best knowledge by writing because I so enjoy it. And there's a majority of the rest of the class that said, don't make me do it. I'd rather show you in some other ways. So what's some alternate ways that you can show me your knowledge besides writing? What's something that's a favorite strength of yours that you would do? McKinley, I know yours would be music.
Yeah.
So if you could demonstrate your knowledge through music, what would you do?
I don't know, but sing.
You'd sing, you'd write a song,
Yeah.
you'd come up with the mnemonics, right? And would I understand if you knew the knowledge?
Yes.
Yes, you would just demonstrate it in a different way. So think of those alternatives to all those kids in front of you. So now we're going to do some group work again. I've divided up the first part of the chapter because it's very important that we think about. Let's look at the outline of the chapter. The first part of the chapter is intelligence. I think many of you have probably heard that term over and over and over again as you were growing up, intelligence. Do we really know what intelligence is? And how do we apply it as pre-service teachers? What does that mean? So we're going to go on, and the next is the definition of what does intelligence actually mean. And we're going to talk about abilities. The next part is multiple intelligences. And you should all be really, really confident with this. This is where we're embedding that worksheet. So I want you to think about it. That's your group. Think about the multiple intelligence worksheet. Bring it up. You can go into Edmodo. Look back at those areas to help you explain this. Think about what that meant to you, looking at that worksheet on multiple intelligences. Did it make you think differently? And they have the outline actually there in your chapter. The next part is multiple intelligences go to school. Because it's not only important as a teacher to understand what intelligence and what our multiple intelligences are, but how do we then apply it? Because the worst thing you can do is have that knowledge and as a teacher not apply it to good teaching in the classroom. So the next part is going to be lessons for teachers and measuring intelligences. And it's going to talk about the intelligence quotient, which is IQ. We hear less of that now, but it's still part of what we do in education. Then the next part is on gender differences in intelligence. And I'm not trying to be gender biased, but there are definite gender differences with intelligences, with different subject areas and activities that you do as a teacher. Then we're going to think about learning and thinking. There's learning styles that help us. And you as a teacher, how to incorporate those learning styles in your classroom. So we're going to reverse this. Let's start off counting from the back.
4.
Yeah, we'll do 4 groups. No, you'll start with 1. Oh, I'm sorry.
3. 1.
2.
3. 4. 1.
Sam's, yeah.
3. 2.
Okay, we're at even today. So today we'll only have 4 groups. We have less, so I had 5 set up. So, okay. Group 1s, how about if you come up here? We'll do 2s over here.
Do you think we could do 4s over here? Sorry, I had a neck and neural injection yesterday.
Oh.
I want-
Sure, okay. We'll do 4s up here. We'll do 1s over here.
Sorry.
No problem. Gather with your groups. Yeah. Pages of 2? Yeah. Go back by page. Here, McKinley, you want to take Here. Let me know where you are. Three. Okay. Where's Forrest? Oh, I gave. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay. You may decide as a group. I have index cards. I have hard paper. You decide how you'd like to deliver. You can use the computer, whatever you'd like to do. Because of the length, I will give you 25 minutes. I think that should be good to go. Just we'll gauge it. Let me know how you're doing. About 25 minutes. That means like 25 to 4. Should be enough time. If it's not, please let me know. You're welcome. Yes. You may do.
So,
Did everyone sign in?
oh,
Yeah. I thought so. I looked and like, no, you're here. You're welcome. Oh. I have markers, whatever you need.
so everyone does that, we all.
You scan it quickly, but
Are we just I guess we're all just reading it and then we'll talk about it all later.
I think like we'll each read it and we'll say like what that section was about.
No, I looked up the picture, I Googled gender differences in intelligence and this picture popped up.
Is where it
Search
starts off.
and intelligence.
well, it certainly shows the differentiation.
So do you want to do?
I think it was like,
Yeah. The main.
alright.
Okay. I can do.
I'm not offended by it. I mean, if it fits with what you're doing.